Before we do that, we're going to loosen up our nut here on the harness. I'll pull that loose, and then inside there's a little, I'll probably have to get it out, but there's a little O-ring in there which tightens up to keep it from getting water inside, but always silicone these because water get right in past them. There. There's a little plastic like O-ring on it right there, and then back further in, this is the O-ring that seats down in there, and it's supposed to keep the water out. Right there is that little O-ring. So we'll just scoot these guys back a little bit because we're going to pull this cable up once we get it inside. Now there's just 2 screws here. They're real fine threaded screws. When you tighten them back down, you got to be careful because it's just plastic threads and it'll strip out. And then they won't hold it in there. You'll have to retap the threads in the inside of the housing if it needs to be. The plastic ones have longer screws in them. If you had a cast iron Flowmeter, they're going to be about half the size of these. But you're probably not going to get them out because on the cast iron, once they get older and set and everything's so rusted, it just don't come apart. Okay, now we're going to take this little guy out of here. So you can get a screwdriver right here, and then she'll pop up. Now, there's several things to look at when we pull this thing apart. We'll take this wire. We're going to push the wire in as we pull up on the circuit board. And I'll show you why, because if we were just to pull on it, we'd be pulling right here against this connector. And these are fine enough that it'll wreck everything if you just yank on it and try to yank that wire out. It's got this little wire tie here which holds the connector to the circuit board so it doesn't come apart. Okay. Now, as we look at this one, we see there's quite a bit of chemical and a little bit of rust and stuff around on this end cap. Another thing we need to look to is for these O-rings, because what happens is these swell. And as these guys swell, you cannot get it back into the housing. And this one's corroded up. It's got corrosion around it. Everything, you want to clean all that up before we put it back together. Now, this is our harness. So our harness has got a lot of corrosion down inside where the connectors were at. This one actually had gotten some water had seeped in because it was not silicone there at the screw. So all the corrosion's there. You can see the corrosion on the circuit board itself right there, right in that part right there. And the back of the circuit board's starting to get corrosion on it. So the circuit board's probably burned out. That's why it wasn't working. And there's more corrosion on the other side. That is taken in. Now we're going to take this little guy off here. And as we do that, there's 2 little washers on this one. One holds the board out away. And if you can see back in here, as I take that loose, you'll see the little O-ring on the back of the screw. Actually, there's 2 of them on this one. Some of them have one big thick one. Some of them have a couple small ones. I'll set them over to the side because we were to put this board back on we do it. There's our screw for it. It's got a washer on that side. So there's washers on both sides. Now also on this board we see the corrosion that is built up down here around the sections. So this board is actually not any good from all the corrosion that's in it. There's corrosion there. There's corrosion around here on this part of the circuit board. And there's a little bit right in there. A little bit right around there. And then there's corrosion on this side. So that board is a bad board. Now we've checked all that. You want to check right around the circumferences of here. This one here probably will not seal real good. Yeah, it won't, because it won't clean up. It's peeled off right there. So that would be junk. That one was not good. So it looks like on this one, yeah, we got a bad turbine. We got a bad hub assembly. The end caps. The O-ring appears to be pretty good and pretty tight yet. And our cable. Also, when you pull the cable up through, you want to inspect right where the cable goes through, sets inside the housing. And you can see the wear on it right here. A lot of times the cables will break right there as the guys are messing around with them. This one's not broke yet, but it's getting pretty close. It's starting to cut right down into it. So those are the things we need to look for when we tear a Flowmeter apart. And we can put one together here. I'll get those parts for this one and we'll show how to put them back together.